In this Roll for Crit preview, we're going to get wild with Darwin's Choice from Triceratops games. In this game, you'll be making species and prove you are the best at Darwin's theory of evolution.
Yeah, which is something that not many species can say. A lot of them are extinct. We're going to try not to go extinct. Basically, it's a card game in which you have different cards that could be different parts of animals. Heads, bodies, legs, tails, wings.
Knees and toes.
Yeah, heads, shoulders, all the aforementioned, perhaps more, perhaps fewer. And you're going to be putting them together, as you can see here, in any combination you desire. The head does not need to match the body. You can kind of go crazy.
Yes, the minimum, as you can see in this one here, is just a head and a body. It's
right.
What you really need to just have it try and survive. Well, the problem is there are going to be a number of environments, depending on the number of players, out. And they'll have requirements. For example, this one requires the head needs to have at least one cold resistance and actually no heat resistance, which is why we have a nice little red and green polar tiger bear, as well as the Tricerasloth, which is using orca and fox parts to keep nice and warm.
Yeah.
So over here, you need to get swimming. So the Gorilla Tuna is really going upstream.
Yeah, I really like the work that we put into these guys. There's also climbing and flying abilities that you might need. And you'll also notice that each spot has different amounts of food, both meat and plants. Depending on what your creature is, they might eat meat or plants, or perhaps both. Some things have a symbiosis symbol, which means it doesn't even need to eat at all. But for the other guys, it's depending on the number of hearts, is how much they're going to need to take onto their board at the end of the round.
Now, for example, there's nothing here competing with it, so it eats its fill. Now, here there are two herbivores, and they're competing. In that case, you're going to look at their traits and see who's a better survivor, and that one gets to eat first.
Yeah, it can be tough. You want to make sure that you have enough food. And as you said, if you're a carnivore and you don't have enough food, you might actually eat one of the herbivores that is there, even if it's your own herbivore.
Yeah, but you got to be big enough to take it on.
Yes, you do. You're also rated in adaptiveness, meaning how many symbols you match according to the environment, and competitiveness, which are these trophy symbols. Whoever is the most competitive will win that award as well. And those are all different ways that you can get these little Darwin points. And the longer that your creature survives, basically, the more of these points they accumulate.
However, if for some reason it were to go extinct, you only keep one of them.
Yeah, so you might build somebody up for a long time, but it's kind of a push your luck thing in a way of worrying about if you build it up too much, other people might see that and try to take that animal out.
Right, as we can actually see, the Indian cobra white shark there will actually die off because it does not have the required parts to survive there, which I just realized when we made that.
Yeah, which can happen because some of the things you can do on your turn, you can migrate, so you can move them to another environment because in between rounds, these environments might change. So that can happen, or something else, instead of moving, you might decide to mutate them further, and maybe, oh, they couldn't fly before, but you have a wing card, and you add that onto them, so now they can fly.
In addition, for the two-player game, there can be a trade route, where you can actually, on your turn, also be like, I really want these legs, and put something else there instead.
Yeah.
Or you could trade with your players, but like, for example, if Jonathan knew I had something with heat resistant, he really wants that to live, so he's like, Will, I will give you 2 heads for that heat resistant part.
Yeah, and in the normal, for more than 2 players, you can trade basically at any time you want in your turn. So that can be a real big aspect of the game, that negotiation aspect, trying to get the cards you want. There's, as we said, 2 different types. There's the big kinds, which are usually the bodies or legs, and the little ones, which are like heads and wings. So you get to kind of draw from each deck as you choose, depending on what your needs are.
Right, so if you already have a couple heads, you don't need any probably more small cards. You want to get maybe some more bodies first.
Yeah, and you can only activate each species once per turn, so you really have to be careful about what order do I want to activate them in and what do I want them to do to ensure their survival.
Right, because I want to add that extra wing on there, but I got to make sure it moves to a new environment to survive.
And at the end of 4 rounds, you just count up how many points are left on your surviving animals, plus whatever ones you got from the dead ones. And whoever has the most points is the most survivorist. However,
your fitness survival is very important, but as we know, weird things can happen. Just ask the dinosaurs. A rock just came out of nowhere. There is an event deck that have some very fun things. For example, nothing happening. Of course, that's on the top. Desertification could change out like the entire area. There's one that makes it so there's no meat going to be available. So all of a sudden all the carnivores become very hungry and start looking at those herbivores. pretty nicely. There's so much changing. You're not just playing your opponents, you're playing as if the environment itself, and you have to make your creature evolve and adapt.
Yeah, I mean, right off the bat, you can see the artwork and the creativity, the fun that you can have just even before we get into the mechanics, just seeing what kind of weird creatures you can create. I mean, I think I didn't not laugh at anything that came out.
The tuna gorilla was one of our first creations, and when that hit the field, we're just like, that is amazing.
Like, this is it. Sold on this game right away.
And of course, coming up with names too, because I loved at the end coming up with the Tricerasloth.
I mean, it rolls right off the tongue. How could you not love it? And then, if you've played the game Evolution, certainly the theme is similar. The gameplay is pretty different, but I would say this is a lighter game than that. It's one that's pretty easy to understand. You could introduce it to big groups of people, and it plays fairly quickly.
Yeah, I feel one of the things in there is there's a lot more. You've made more species, and there's almost like competitive with each other. Maybe eating your own was in this.
In Evolution, yeah.
Yes, and this I feel like you're focusing a lot more on the one species. For example, I know in one of our games we both were in a tundra area when we started off. We both made 2 carnivores. They were fine with each other, but then that became a desert. So they both migrated to an ocean and survived there. But then that became something else. But it was less that we were hunting, we were making sure those survived because those 2 had banked us a lot of points already.
Yeah, it can be very interesting the way that works. And sometimes there was another instance where my guy only had very few points, and I decided, you know what, it's better for me to just sacrifice him, actually, and put something else out there to get that point now.
Right, instead of putting resources, because you actually didn't lose any points because you got the 1 point that was on it.
Exactly, yeah.
And then what was also interesting is during another game, I didn't focus on a middle area. So your species was king there and got so many points.
Yeah. You get points based on the number next to the environment. So like ones that are harder to survive in are worth more to be the champion of. So really interesting game. Very unique feel. Very colorful, aesthetically pleasing to look at. It does take up a bunch of table space.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest issue. You got to make sure you got a table to fit it. These animals are not small.
Yeah, it goes up to 6 players actually, and as you can see, like if you're,
this is a 3-player setup.
Yeah, it can get overrun pretty quickly. So that's the one thing you got to make sure of. But man, it is fun and unique, and there's plenty of interesting choices to make. But it's not too stressful. I think for me, especially because things can only do one thing per round. It forces you to have to really be careful what you do, but once it's done, it's like, okay, I can focus on other areas now.
Yeah, I did feel a lot of times when we played, and it was almost fun in that sense, because you didn't, like when I play some of the other animal games when I think of it, you're almost like afraid that it's gonna go out and become extinct. That's actually much more likely. I feel like it's more, you're competing against everyone else in a very abstract way. This, I feel like you see such the obvious animals made, and you're almost like, we became very connected with them, and sort of just being like, this guy's gonna live. I'm making sure he lives.
Yeah.
And you're playing a lot, just as much, not against the, like in real life, the animals, you're not just competing against the other predator. But if a meteor comes down, you better learn to adapt to that.
Yeah, and like you said, it's not abstract at all. Like it really, I need more meat. There's only so much meat there. The mechanics really directly relate to the theme, which is cool.
Yeah, I'm in an ocean, probably need a lot of swims.
I need to swim.
What do you know? 5 tails.
Yeah, of course,
good.
A fish body is good at swimming. It all makes sense like that. Very clever, very fun game. We love the theme. We love it.
No, we had a great time. Another small thing that I actually did with a friend was I took the photo of one of our games, and I literally was like, all right, we each get to draw monsters in one of them.
Oh, yeah.
And you can do that at the end, which could be a great thing to do with, I mean, like I said, you could do it with a kid, which would be perfect, but we're both past college, but we still had fun drawing this crazy cobra polar bear tiger, which I thought was adorable.
Yeah. If you want to bring out more of your creative side, that can be a lot of fun. Yeah, even like just kids, if you just give them these cards, they'll have tons of fun just looking at them and moving around.
5-year-old Will would spend hours just making weird things, though I would need more dinosaur parts.
Yeah, so Darwin's Choice, it is on Kickstarter right now for around $40 US, which I think is a reasonable price for this game. So if you liked Evolution, or you just like the theme of nature in general, or kind of card games where you're competing to survive in an environment, you probably want to look at this one, I'd say.
Don't say no to the Gorilla Tuna.
You definitely should. Hey, let us know what you think in the comments if you want to back it or not, whatever you're feeling right now. Until our next video, I'm Jonathan.
I'm Will.
And this has been a Kickstarter preview. Hey, if you liked this video, then like this video and subscribe to our channel for more board game content.
Would you kindly do it now?